do you think if your commercial success wouldn't have been the way it had been for the show, would you have looked at yourself and your work the way you, similarly, the way you're looking at yourself right now?
Honestly, like definitely affects. Like the financial success tells you that it is very affirmative. You have to give it time. But it's so important to not leave your drawing back practice. No, even if you don't draw very well, it does not matter. Always think on paper. Show up every day in front of your desk. Just relentless. Take a break, walk, whatever, but every day, like just be there. That's the only thing that's worked for me. I'm the first person who has to like my work. It always is that. I generally do not get any satisfaction out of like the work that I don't like. I don't know anything else what to do with it. I only paint.
Okay, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. And I'm very excited because, it's as much as, we really put a lot of effort to bring people of all like diversification. We haven't had a lot of people still from India. And I hate to say this, but we're really trying. So I'm very, very, and also like, not only artists, but because for me, I think bringing artists that I personally feel very connected to and contemporary, and I think where we can speak the same language. And I think you were one of the person that I've been following from India for quite some time. I just told you, I think before CA, that was when we first met. I don't even remember if you remember we met, because it was such a fiasco and
It was
like
a bit of
such yeah, that time in
yeah.
itself I think is like, oh god, it was a whole thing in itself. But I'm glad that we're doing this after like 3 years.
I know, but I feel like the most of the things have been at a bit of a pause, a 3 year pause. So, like, this might be the best time to do it.
How was COVID for you?
Um, I, I, I mean, I anyway worked a lot in isolation. Like, I have a studio at home, and I live in a very isolated, like, forested area in Delhi.
Oh wow, where is this?
Scenic Farms, but like we live in the fag end of Scenic Farms. Like we're surrounded by this a solar bird sanctuary. We are bordering that. So behind our house, there's just like a jungle, and surrounding it also. So it was kind of like it didn't like took to it okay, but I think the isolation did get to me like after a while because so I mean like because what do you do, right? Like when you're cut off from people, like you don't realize how social you are, even though you pretend, no, I'm not a social, this and that, but one does scary moments also, right? Because there were like lots of ups and downs, like we were happy baking, doing things, and like suddenly the next month we had people in the hospital. So I think this is like a moment in history where the entire world, re- regardless of where they come from, like we've had like this one thing, one ordeal connecting us together, and I think that we're gonna understand it till like many years later, like what we have gone through. I mean, we haven't come out the same.
Yeah, it'll take I think it'll the impact. Yeah, I think, I was just thinking, and I've asked this question after a really long time on the podcast, because I remember just after, while the whole COVID thing was happening, I was doing studio visits online and we were doing the podcast. And then, in spite, like after the podcast, like after COVID, like the whole thing happened. And COVID was a big, big thing for myself because I lost my mom in the second wave, and it was like a whole. I had a it was a very hard time, but when we even came back after all of it, and I remember speaking to people because it was one of the most important things, like at that time, because we all were experiencing and it was changing. And I think slowly that conversation diluted because time had passed, and we felt this everybody had this movement of slowing down. Everybody wanted to move away into the mountains, and everybody wanted to quit their jobs, and everybody wanted to be an artist, which is great. But and I see that now, um I'm seeing another pattern, very similar pattern where people have huge dissatisfaction levels. And like also a lot of people are again going into this hustle mode. And, we're still, I think the lessons we had learned, we're still again going back to the things that we came from. So I think there will still be so much because the movement that we've had those 2 years, I don't know for how much they're going to change and so much of who we are.
I mean, I think we did go through trauma, so I see it like that. So, like, we a lot of people do want to put that behind. Like, I lost a couple of close people in family. So, like, I mean, of course, you've been through like a very, very one of the hardest times of your life. So, a lot of people did go through that. So that's why I'm saying that people might be like pushing it back, but we won't know the real impact of it till I mean, a lot of people created, like, at the beginning of the pandemic, a lot of artists created lockdown art. And I was quite, like, a lot of it was beautiful, but I was a little skeptical about that because I was like, we're, we don't know what we are going to go through. And we won't know after going through it for a while. So, like, I feel like the real stuff is going to come out, like, in a bit.
No, no, absolutely. Okay. Okay. So I remember, so from the time, let me just recall while I was following you. This was the CA thing. I mean, you were still I so you are a self-taught artist, right?
Yeah, I did go to design school for a year, but yeah, I did go to design school for a year, but I kind of didn't like it. Uh, uh, and I had a lot of issues with the professors there. So even though I got good marks, they failed me or something like that in the jury. Yeah, because I used to fight with them on a daily basis. It was insane.
And I know you have you're a person. I've been following you. You have like a lot of opinions.
No, like I felt like it was very authoritarian. Like, like I anyway went to a boarding school before that, and after that I thought, oh, college is gonna be great. But it was like clamped down again, and I kind of like, no, I can't deal with this. I'm an adult. Anyway, like whatever happened, and I anyway had told them during my jury that I don't think I'm gonna continue. So I don't think they took it very well, and this happened, and then I just kind of started doing my own thing.
So what did you let's go, let's see, let's hear about your journey so far. Like um how have you navigated? Let's talk about a little about your background. Did you always think you wanted to be an artist?
I always have painted all my life. I don't remember a single day in my life where I don't remember a momentous time when I picked up the pencil when I started painting or my first painting. I probably my first memory would be when I was 3.5, 4. I don't know. I've always painted like whatever I could find. And painting and sketching, especially drawing, has been almost a daily practice for me. Never really learned it formally. I had art as a subject in school also, but at that time, like even though we had a great arts department in my school, but there was no concept of like being an artist. Like what was it? I mean, I don't think the first time I went to a museum was when I was in my 20s. If you discount like going to the doll museum,
And I don't know, where did you grow up?
Meerut, UP.
Okay, so you were both of us from a smaller town.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so for me also, I grew up in a smaller town. There was no concept of a gallery. There was no concept of like being an artist, knowing an artist. So like none of that. And then like even in this gap of like my first, and you know what? Strange. My first museum visit wasn't even in India. My first museum visit was in Paris, and I'd gone after my further education for a shorter while, and that is when for the first time I'd gone to the Louvre, and that was like my first official museum visit. And at that point, to be honest, I didn't even know like, okay, what the Louvre is, or like, and it felt so intimidating, and it felt like, oh my God. And also like always, like art is always like in India, it always felt like for people who are with wealth. It wasn't like, art is for all.
Yeah, that's true. Anyway, museum spaces are intimidating. They are like like they are kind of these structures and So I think art is what softens it, but the structure itself is very like they're also designed like like that.
So you were raised in Meerut.
Yeah, Western UP, like, born and brought up, and then moved a couple of places. But I ended up in a boarding school where as I told you, I had a great arts department, but there wasn't this concept. So it was almost immediately like, oh, you are into art, then you're going to do graphic design. So then, it was at that time, like I'm talking about 2006, 2007, 2008, that's when the boom was happening. So then went to design school. Completely did not, I made a lot of friends, but I just, it was too much like school for me. And I had a lot of issues. Like, it's not funny, like the amount I fought was like, it was like, I think my parents, they were like, tang aa gaye. And then I joined a design agency, a couple of design agencies when I came back to Delhi. I did my English honors graduation side by side, and just learned design. But
So you
somehow,
worked as a
like I
graphic
kept,
designer?
yeah, graphic designer, illustrator, then art direction.
Oh, I think we've all gone down the same path in this case.
I think that generation did a lot of that. There's a specific time people did that, and but I never stopped. Like, I always went back to it, like, and I saw that people were doing a lot of things on social media, and I always wanted to start the practice again. So I started doing little things, like, being part of group shows here and there.
When was this?
This is around 2016. Yeah, 2016 and 2017, I did my first group show in Delhi. So, in being in Delhi does help. Like, even though I don't know people from the art background, like people see your work, especially you put it on social media, like, someone contacts you. It always does happen like that. And then I kind of had a couple of people who would put up my works.
How was that? Because I've had a very like contrast. Like I never found Delhi per se as a welcoming place, specifically the art world.
No, it's not very welcoming, honestly. But I guess, like, I did a residency, and there I met a few people, and they liked my work.
Okay. And which was that?
The residency, it was in Himachal. So they had these 12 artists from all over the world, and I had submitted kind of a like project to collaborate with the miniature artists.
So that was your first big.
Yeah. And I went, like, looking for them in Himachal. I had no idea where to go because a lot of things are not like, somehow things are like, in especially with these traditional artists, because they don't have a lot of avenue and access to these things. So you can't even find them that easily. And I went from different temple to temple because a lot of them are artists, like, associated with temples. Found them, did this residency for a month in Himachal, painted like walls there, huge murals in that village. That was my project with them, collaborated, and fell in love with the art form. Then met a few people also there, fellow artists. And but I would do very little, like one show here, like maybe one painting here, one digital art there. And then I created a few paintings, and one of the curators that really liked my work, she put up my works at the India Art Fair. That was my first time in 2020, my first India Art Fair. I was so excited because, like, this wasn't my main practice.
Yeah. And while were you working like somewhere in that process?
Yeah, I was like taking up like projects, uh, design based projects throughout. So it wasn't my main practice at all. And but I did a lot of things because I worked a lot with, like, during the CA protests, like I had
Yeah.
friends
Yeah, I
there,
remember
so
you were very active.
I was not the one who started it. In fact, my friends were there, and they're in this space, and I was like, I just can't sit at home at all.
Yeah, we were all feeling that way.
And I found so many people there, and it was like, it was absolutely insane at that time. My first art fair, so I'm like preparing to do this, and then the curators asked me to, because they'd seen my work there, they asked me to, like, invite few artists from Jamia and, like, different universities. Some girls were like the same girls who were, like, painting in Shaheen Bagh.
Yeah, oh, because I remember while your India Art Fair showcase was happening, and I remember I was just there when all of this happened. There was a huge, like, the India Art Fair had like a, because with the whole political chaos at that point, they were very strict that, because a lot of protest was happening. And I remember Premjish was there and I was there, and I had just met him, and we crossed our paths. And I had come to your booth, I'd seen your work, I already recognized your work by then. And then I saw you with a couple of people, and there was like some kind of performance, like you were painting live or something. And just after that, yeah, and just after that, the whole police thing, and the policing was so bad and wrong at that point, that it became like a whole thing, I remember.
It really became a thing, and it was very shocking and surprising because we didn't have any
Yeah,
messaging
I
that was
remember.
anti pro CA, anti CA, whatever. We didn't have any
Yeah.
message. We kind, because we knew that, like, then we won't get any
You
space if
won't.
we do anything like
Yeah.
that. We wanted to basically like highlight the protests happening in the country, and especially being led by women and queer folk.
Yeah.
And we were painting live painting, and each girl person who had painted the live painted like on these squares, we had tied up each square with, like, we'd got some dhaga from the Sai Mandir, and like one of my friends Reshma had got it from the dargah,
Yeah.
these
Yeah. Yeah.
common
Yeah.
things are there in like every religion, like tying of threads. So we were doing that, and like I remember people were crying. Like I had tears in my eyes, my curator had tears in her eyes, like
God.
the audience was crying.
I don't remember what gallery was it.
It was an Italian cultural embassy.
Oh, yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, they did great work, they defended us. But like, I mean, like, it was, I mean, that moment, because everyone was like a little moved, and then there's good music, and suddenly, like, you anyway, that's really charged.
And it wasn't just the CA, because the beginning of COVID had already begun. Like we had already had mass restrictions, and like I think the tension at that point, and like the confusion, and like I think in general the frustration amongst people was only growing.
Yeah, because at that time there were a lot of, especially students, and younger students, like a generation younger than me, like a lot of
Yeah.
students, like were like out in the streets, because there was like a
Yeah.
clampdown on a lot of universities,
Yeah.
which is never a good sign
Right.
ever. So,
Right.
and the police came, and somebody anonymous had complained. And the
Yeah.
worst part was that, like, I told them, like, take me, like, like, if you have an issue. But they wanted the names of the girls who were wearing hijab. And I just could not,
God.
because of the way they were dressed. It was literally that. So,
Oh
like,
my goodness.
going into lockdown after that, I really did internalize that, because I was like, because I felt like it was my responsibility, and something,
Yeah, you'd
if I
wrong
had actually told the police guys, like, if I hadn't spoken sweetly and nicely and actually tried make
to
them
calm it down.
understand, they understood. But what they
Okay.
did, they achieved what they had to do, like, or whatever I mean, I don't know what their intention was, but
Yeah.
basically in the end it did get disrupted,
Yeah.
and it was a very big thing after that, and to the point that I had to stop giving any interviews, because I was like, it's just everything is becoming about this, and I didn't
This.
want
Yeah, you
the
don't want to put that much spotlight onto this.
no, also because I didn't want those artists, because what happens is if the police takes their names later or whenever, we didn't
Oh
give them
God.
anything, but then they do harass a lot of people, and they're
Yeah.
already minority women, like, they shouldn't be
Yeah.
penalized for wearing it.
Right.
I mean, if,
Right.
should that even be said?
Absolutely.
Like, it's a
Absolutely.
given.
Right.
So, yeah. So lots of things were happening at that time.
Okay. So your India Art Fair, while you were working, while you were figuring things out, you made a bold statement. You fought for your colleagues. You like you. I think as an artist, you really push yourself out there. It was, at least you have a story to tell. At least.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I didn't. I mean, I don't want to be like, oh, I did this, because I didn't. There wasn't any choice. It was almost like a surprise. Like, I mean, I'm not saying that I would not have stood up for people, but I'm saying that Like I cannot tell you, Charu, like how big a surprise it was. Like maybe I was living in a naive world.
We all were like, everything that was happening at that time was like, it was like we still, and I think, I mean, this we like the whole political scenario has been a lot of layers added over these years, and like things happening. And I think as women, um, we've had like, I think as artists, women, as people who've had, or anyone who has a lot more open and liberal thoughts, I think we've had a lot of issues with a lot of things that had happened at that point.
I mean, of course. I mean, if even if people don't speak about it, people are not blind to it. I mean, like a lot of women definitely aren't, because the thing is that any kind of authoritarian regime or any kind of authoritarian structures, they affect women the worst. Like you might think that you are like you're towing the party line, but
No,
trust me.
also I think I mean, even though, rel- you know, I don't know, we've never really spoken about things like these on the podcast, but also I think religiously, I mean, we come from that background, like, you know, and I only can imagine for people who don't have that privilege, how incredibly hard it is for them. And it does not, I only don't mean that from the end of being a Hindu in India, or like, having that privilege, or, but also like someone, who leaves their country and goes into another country, like, that disparity. And I think just being conscious about how we treat people. Like, you will always be an insider, and I think our roles as insiders and outsiders, and I don't even know if that's the right word, but belonging in a sense of no belonging is like, uh, I may be an insider. Let's say for me, when I grew up here in this, let's say both of us, we grew up in a smaller town, and for me, for the longest time being in Delhi, I always felt like an outsider. Coming into the art world, I always felt as an outsider because I didn't come from the traditional ecosystem of being into the art world, nor do I still operate in that sense. But I'm also for someone who's just not at all there. They think I'm a huge, for them, I'm an insider of that ecosystem because I've been a part of that ecosystem. So like we always have these evolving roles, and I think we should never forget that. Um, and I always tell myself, if I am an insider somewhere and there's someone who's an outsider, and I can bridge that gap for them by, just giving them one hand, I will do that because I know what it feels when I am an outsider and there's nobody who's giving me a hand or just, giving me support. And I think, I don't know, I just,
I mean, like, it's good that we have shifting perspectives all the time. Like, it's like one also reviews oneself and what one does. So, definitely.
tell me what happened
Yeah.
after that. That was your first in India art fair. Then COVID happened. How was COVID? Did you had a lull? Because for us, and specifically on the podcast, for me also, I had like my first four sold out online. I did like an online release and I sold out. And I got my work got featured at so many places, and also like the beginning of this community, the Arts to Arts project, everything happened within like the whole period. So for a lot of artists, they actually had a huge shift in their careers. They spent more time, they made more sales, irrespective of what was happening. How was it for you?
Very similar, I have to say. I mean, like, a lot of commercial projects had dried up because I did a lot of illustration work, a lot of
Yeah,
branding,
yeah, yeah,
especially like illustration based projects. And at that time, things went completely like dry. So, I was sitting at home. What could one do? Like, at the end of the day, we were comfortable and in our homes, comfortable enough to, like
yeah,
not worry. Like, there was worry, I won't say, but like not worry about, oh, like what are we
yeah,
gonna eat, or like
yeah,
the
yeah,
rent.
of
We didn't
course.
have those kind of worries. I had other kind of worries, definitely. So I mean, I had wanted to learn miniature art because I've collaborated with these artists for so long, and they're brilliant and amazing. So I called up
Absolutely.
one of the artists and I told him that I want you to be my guru. I want you to teach me. And he started teaching me online, and I'd already started painting.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a lot. Like a lot means like I can't even look at those paintings anymore because I feel like there's been such a sea change.
I love your recent body of work, though. Absolutely love.
Yeah, but I went to Kangra. I stayed with him in his village,
Okay.
And immediately after that, like I came back and I started painting
This was during COVID?
during COVID.
How long were you there?
2 weeks.
Okay.
Uh, but I was learning online, but it really shifted everything
Shifted.
because
Yeah,
learning
when you met in
practically,
person.
yeah, like especially sitting there with the guru and like learning. And I started developing these this series which I had in mind for so long,
Okay.
uh, which I will get into, but like I'll just
Yes.
give you a brief before that. And then the next art fair happened soon after, and I got a call from Method, the gallery in Bombay, and they
Yeah.
said that they had seen my works, older works,
Okay.
which is like completely different now,
Okay.
and they wanted me to, like, they asked me if I had anything new, and they wanted me to send them some work. So I said, see, I have these three paintings, and I'm going to make them into a series, and this is my work. If you want, you can put these up. And I sent an abstract that I'd written at that time.
See,
Uh,
so you know.
no, I had, because
Mm.
it's one of the very rare times that I had a very clear vision in my mind. Otherwise, I'm all over the place.
No, but also like I love the confidence, like because I just love your confidence in the sense because like with other artists, like this is a very common situation where people like, oh my god, someone's reached out to me, oh a gallery, and like you know they you overcompensate and the fear of missing things out. Like there's so many, like all of these layers.
I've done so much for that. I have to tell you, it's like I have done that so much.
Now you had this confidence. I have these three piece. Take it or leave it.
I mean, like, COVID changed everything because before that, like, it was very like, oh my, like the excitement was a different level when I did the program there, and you know what happened there. So I was just like, apna karo, like I was just like just concentrate on what I was doing and
Yeah, put
forget
your
because
head
I had
down
to really
and do the work.
shut out the world. And they immediately
Yeah.
messaged me back that they wanted to do a solo show. So I couldn't
Okay.
believe it. And I was just like, okay, yeah, sure, why not? And then
Which year was this? Because you just had the show, which is now.
last immediately happened after the pandemic, that one.
No, so this is your with method. You're talking about the same shoot that you've just had with them.
Yeah, I'm talking about that, but it was for the art fair before the year before that.
Oh, but did it happen? Because I don't remember. Were you showing a solo show with method at the art fair?
Not right now, I did, but not at the art fair. I wasn't ready. It was in 2 months. They wanted a few pieces. So what I'm saying is they wanted a few pieces from me, and then they saw my work. They said that instead of like these pieces like to show at the art fair, next year we want to do a solo with you. So you prepare, So I was like, okay, like. Um, like I don't know if this is gonna work out. I was skeptical, but I really liked them. I was like, एक साल है देखते हैं like how it works out.
Yeah.
And I sent them one painting which I had, which got picked up and uh, and I was very surprised. I'm always surprised when these things happen. And I like the way they work because now I sold one work with them, and they're very honest and they're very transparent.
Okay.
And I like their ethos. So,
Yeah.
and, like, I was also confident, and
Yeah.
that's when I started and kind of like talking about doing this show. But I was very slow about it. I did not. I was lazy as hell. I didn't do much till like the last 4 months before the show. And they were also,
Okay.
Sahil was like, I'm very confident in you, like the owner of Method. And I was like, please don't be, like, you have to be on my case. They were like, no, no, I have full confidence in you. So I was like, okay. Then I was like, if some, like,
Now
मुझे ही शर्म
someone's
आ गया
putting that
कि
faith. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right.
so like I better get to it. And yeah, I got to it. And we just had a show like in February. It touch wood really well.
I think your work was fantastic. I have so many spins on it the moment. Like I remember I shared your work with my team also. And like I love Gargi's work. And that's when I think I asked my colleague Rabia, I was like, let's please bring her on. I really love this series. And it'd be so nice to bring
Thank
her
you.
on and
Thank
speak to her. No, but you deserve it. I mean it's a fan. And I think also I think that is something that I also really enjoy is when you love, like I really in general also enjoy what method does, what they stand for, and um And I've seen method evolve from day one. Like, I started following them just when they started, and then, to so yeah. And when you feel like you followed someone's journey and you see how they're operating and the work that you're doing, and then I saw your work with them, and I was like, this is such an exciting collaboration for someone that you like both the parties, and if they're bringing something out together.
No, but one thing I have to definitely mention, because I have been in Delhi and I've worked with like different, few different galleries, different people. Their way of working is very different. I couldn't have asked for a
Yeah,
better person to do a solo, people to do solo show with, because it's Delhi is very, very,
easy.
very different. Like all any other
Yeah,
established people or galleries,
yeah,
like they they don't. There is definitely a lack of respect, and I'm going to put it
100.
out there for the
Yeah,
artists. It definitely is there.
and also it is, I think, very egalitarian, very aristocratic. There's a lot of and I love Bombay energy. I love Bombay energy. I love Bombay energy, for to be honest.
I loved it. I was so surprised and like I was so happy that people opened up to it. I had the best time. Like people opened their hearts to it. Like
I was so hoping. I was in Bombay the last like around my birthday, and I was like, I was so hoping to catch your show. I know it was up there. We had gone to Method, and just as we'd gone, it they'd closed down. I was like, oh god. So till when is it up?
no, it was for a month, and then they extended it for a week, 10 days. But then they had to like send the
Another
works.
yeah.
No, no, like the people who had acquired the
Yeah,
works, they
work
had to
quiet
send
work.
it.
So you had your journey of without like with in the beginning of the CA and all of that in 2000, I think 18 to now. You've had your solo show, and your work, I think, has not only, I think we see a lot of our, and I keep reminding myself, like we see a lot of our professional growth in the sense of the achievements we've made, in the sense of like numbers, and like the CV numbers, or the numbers of how we are selling, and like, but also I think how we've grown as artists. I think when you look at your work, when I look at your work, it looks it looks drastically different, but also so good. And I as a viewer really like, and I'll give you a very honest like view. When I saw your work, I didn't have context about the story and all, and I naturally felt very inclined to it because it has that feminine. And you know what, your work really resonates. Do you remember, do you know Hiba?
Hiba Shabazz, yeah, she does a bit of miniature. It's more watercolor,
Yeah,
but
and coffee, she
she
does
does.
coffee paints.
Yeah, I know she has these huge, beautiful.
Yes, yes,
Of course, she
yes.
models them on herself, so they are very beautiful because she's gorgeous.
Yeah, and she's Pakistani, and she has her miniature influence, from her side of the culture. And for some reason, even though like she does these really big ones, but also she does smaller miniature paintings, like really small ones. And then she does these like really large scaled up watercolors and panels. And I think I saw some kind of like connection between the two, and even though they were very different, they looked very different, but there was also like the synchronity I could feel. So I definitely liked your work. But also what was interesting is I loved how the series had like the storytelling narrative. And when I like the monkey, the banana, and the woman, the first thing the narrative that came to my mind, it was like a man, the power, and the woman, like the struggle of like who has the hold of what more. Like I think as a woman, because I work, like my life, my like so much of me is about that, my work is about that. And the moment I saw your work, I felt like, okay, this monkey seems like a man, this woman seems like a woman, me, or like and what that apple represents, that banana represents, is like this, this who, like I think with the society that we live in, like literally women have to protect their power and identity and their strengths and who they are, and sometimes literally snatch from others. And like there's this monkeys hanging around you always. I don't know, I just always I wanted to share this when it really spoke to me, really spoke to me.
Yeah, I mean, it did evolve. Thank you, and it did evolve like that. It came from a very real space because I told you I live in a jungle space, and we fight with monkeys so much. We fight with them because we are on the edge of the forest. We are kind of encroaching on their territory, so it's like we. I mean, there's just every single day, like I think there's a war going on between us. So I started observing them. Like I had a lot of time, and when I was painting, and I was like, I have to do this. That's my thought behind it. And as I started painting, what happens is that like I was painting this fight and this thing, like the banana, like yeah, and I was like immediately I thought of the banana. I didn't think too much at that time, but like I was building a narrative like subconsciously in my head, and then I looked at the banana. I was like the obvious phallic shape of the banana, like it's like the ultimate power. It's the masculine power. Like like is like power. I know we all talk about feminine power, but this in particular was about the masculine power because that's what we strive for. Like even women strive for that mission.
Yes, yes. Because it is also respected, na?
Yeah,
Because
it was a
we, I
critique
think
on
women,
myself also. Like I do feel somewhere it
yeah,
was uh, because like I mean otherwise we don't want to fight that fight, right? But we do, like a lot of us do want to get into like those spaces,
yeah,
and why not also? Like, but at the same time, it's a critique, like the corporate power, greed,
yeah,
whatever you call it,
yeah,
fight for resources. It was all about that, and as anything, power does corrupt and it devolves, so it became perverse. And for me, like I talk a lot of like adding sexual themes, especially like built in with humor, like I find that perverse
yeah,
because like I feel
yeah,
one should like kind of like talk about, like I like to talk about the perverseness in us. um, so I did put it out there. I was so because it does devolve, right? Like there's trickery, there's
yeah,
like there are serious consequences that happen. Like this guy
yeah,
trying to, like there are very the imagery is very obvious and very sensual,
yeah,
and
yeah,
a lot of times dangerous also for the woman and monkeys also, but like
yeah.
the woman. So like I was toying with these ideas, and uh, it uh, yeah, and that's how the series developed. And I'm now continuing painting this, and let's see where it takes me.
Yeah, but I'm very excited to see the further what happens with the banana and the monkey and the girl. But tell me, how does it feel? Like, from starting from like a, it's always very interesting to look back and to look at all those feelings, like from having no idea to just doing whatever you can, whatever comes, whatever clicks, to to doing a show that feels very aligned. Also, you not only in the sense of that, but you also had a commercial success. You sold out a lot of work, and it got a great review. And so, like, reach sometimes, to reach a point where you only once dream of.
My immediate reaction when I put it up was definitely relief because I, uh, I, what happens is that before this, like, this is the first time that I had a very clear vision of what I wanted to do. And like being
Yeah,
in the design space, trying to enter the art world, like trying to like talk to people, like go show your, like I hardly did show my work, but also like just meeting people in general or applying for things, and like getting rejected back to back for things, and like basically like being like a headless chicken, not knowing like what to do in
yeah,
like a minefield. I don't know, like the shift happens because you completely are at it. Like I always say
yeah,
that keep at it, like because you'll find that
yeah,
you just have to be like consistently like sar maro, like wherever you, like I did that.
yeah, yeah,
Like some people have a vision like from the beginning. Like it took me very long to come to
yeah,
this. So my first
yeah,
reaction was a great sense of relief that this was pulled off, and the second was
yeah.
surprise. Second was surprise when actually things started selling. Like the first week was slow, the second and the third week almost sold out, and it was like more than anything, I was like it's almost like you don't expect this to
You
happen to
can't.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah, you believe
yeah.
it.
You
So
only think, oh, this is happens with. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, because I did want to keep my expectations so low that I'd like completely
Low.
put it like somewhere down. And what I liked the most, and I'll be very honest, was that random people bought it, like who did not
Okay.
even see the
You didn't
artwork.
know.
Like they didn't know me, they hadn't heard of me, they hadn't seen the artwork physically. They saw it on Instagram, and a lot of them bought it like
Okay.
that. So which I
Okay.
absolutely love, because like then one could
No.
actually, like, that means that one has done some sort of
Yeah.
an,
Capacity.
it's not like some art collectors bought it, but like some very, like, contemporary, like, people who are my age, or like, say like 5 6 years
Oh
older than me,
wow.
which was very good to see that
Yeah.
a lot of people were,
Yeah.
buying that, and not traditional art buyers, which actually gives a lot of hope to like
Yeah.
people who are working in new media, the younger artists
Yeah.
who are not institutionalized yet,
Yeah.
or who don't
Yes.
have like, big gallery like representation, and their art probably will
Yeah.
not be represented. But like there's so much scope for people, because I guess I won't speak too soon about democratization of art, because like you
Yeah.
think that you're taking one step forward, and then you hear news, and then you're taking
Mm,
10 steps back.
yeah.
But I
Back.
mean, but I would say that people are opening up to buying stuff from younger artists, and I think that was a
Which
very
is
positive thing.
yeah. And I think, sometimes we think like, okay, this problem is not being solved, or like, there's so much conversation about what's missing. And I feel like the more we all contribute to the problem, the more we make actions and contributions. Like I remember with Arts to Hearts when we started, like, and that is what really changed things for me. And I think it's changed ever since then. And I keep thinking, and I always say this, like, with my own work and my relationship with Arts to Arts, is like, okay, what I feel is not existing for me as an artist. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I could wait for the right opportunity, or I could create that for myself and for other people, and or make it a better way, or make a way that suits us better, or like, so keep waiting. And it's not about like also waiting for perfection. Like you said, you keep making. I think just waiting for, I mean, you have to like, if you don't put yourself out there. And I think my method is doing a great work. I think in general Bombay is doing a great work. And like, I love Hina was on this, and we spoke to, like, when I was speaking to Hina and Ritika also, like how they started the journeys together. And look what how brilliant Ritika is today, the work she's doing. And Tarka, for that matter. Like, we all start somewhere. We try to solve something that we feel is missing, I think. And you never know what it becomes of something.
Yeah, I mean, like, the one thing that I always I used to strive, like, I'll give you my example. I used to like look at other people's stuff, and I'd be like, oh my god, like, why haven't, like, I like, achieved that, not fame. For me, like, the art, the skill and the art, very very important, like, that, like, but it does not happen like you have to give it time, have to
You
give.
have to go through these ugly stages. Like you said, you don't want to see those sketches.
No, you have to give it time, like, no matter what. And like, I would get disheartened, and I would hate my work, like, till very recently, like, hate it to the point that I would like leave, like, for like 2 months, not sketch or draw anything. But like, I think, because like the, like, something in me, like, this time was like, no, no, just break through it, just break through it, you will hit the wall, you will. And that is what is going to happen with like most people, like, with like you will find that talent. But it's so important to not leave your drawing practice. No, even if you don't draw very well, it does not matter, always think on paper, like, always.
What has been the hardest thing for you in this process? The biggest challenge that you feel that you faced?
PR.
So how did you navigate? But you've had some good PR for the show. You didn't you?
We wanted to do ads on Instagram, and every single ad got flagged because of the naked women. So, absolutely, like, to the point that Instagram now does not recommend my content. Like, it does not recommend my content. It gave me a warning, like, remove this post.
But tell me, like, come on, you know what? Instagram is like a, it's honestly, it's like a shit show for artists right now, to be very, very honest. I feel like um it's like you have nudity, that is why they flagged you. We I don't have nudity, but even then my reach is 1/100th of what I have. Like, there's always reason. I think i think sometimes Instagram is a great way. I always say this, Instagram is a great way to grow, like, reach an audience, share your work. But we should never let it get into our heads. Like, it's such so hard.
I mean, like that's why I said that PR has been like the hardest thing because, and it being the hardest thing, I've not touched it also. Like I've just been like, chodo. Like literally, I've just been like,
But you had good PR for your yeah, I think Grazia covered your show.
all organic. Nothing was. I think Method did the Grazia thing. Vogue happened on its own. Uh, and mm, even the Instagram, like the likes and the stuff that we got, we couldn't promote it.
Like, people, it showed people's interest.
Yeah, and also like being there at the gallery, like either Sahil, Emma, or me, like we would be there for like I was there throughout.
So were you be living in Bombay all this while?
I was in Bombay for like 1 week and then for 2 weeks. So like 3 weeks I was in Bombay. Like at that time, I had some. My husband had some work, so like anyway, then it became a little convenient to stay for a longer period. But I think that really helps. Like interacting with your audience does not matter if they buy your work or not. Like, you have to. You put your shows to like why else? Like if you can just like talk to people and be there and get their feedback. Um, because you're putting your work on sale in a gallery to show to audiences. You are a bit vain. I mean, otherwise, why would you not do that? So you are going to you want that affirmation.
Do you think if very vulnerable question, do you think if your commercial success wouldn't have been the way it had been for the show, would you have looked at yourself and your work the way you, similarly the way you're looking at yourself right now?
Honestly, like it affects, definitely affects. Like the financial success tells you that it is very affirmative. I wouldn't say that I would make it all about that, but to say that it wasn't that, it would be a lie.
I think it's such a tricky thing because sometimes it's not everything, because maybe your work could be a good fit, but maybe where you're showing it couldn't be the right fit, who you're showing it wouldn't be. But like, when something like this happens, you're like, okay, I found the right match. Now I know the kind of people I want to show my work, and I know the work that I feel good and aligned with what I'm making. Like, you feel attached to your work. I think I felt in places where I feel like I like what I'm making. I feel I'm now I need to like find the other part of the puzzle. Like, okay, this part I like.
Absolutely. Like I'm the most unhappy when I don't like my like I literally don't like I'm the first person who has to like my work. It always is that. Like so like I will not get satisfied. I generally do not get any satisfaction out of like the work that I don't like. So that's why my level of confidence was higher than generally it is because I actually did like my work. So, and I critique myself quite a lot. I might not be the best critic, but like it matters to me that I like my work. It does. So that's the main thing. But also, like the fact that I'm putting my work in a gallery space, which is a commercial space, means that I do want financial success. So I would be like a lie saying that it didn't matter. It was just affirmative. It was very, very, very affirmative. That doesn't mean that if I hadn't had success, I would not paint. I don't know anything else what to do with life. I only paint.
It's like, then I think it will be like, okay, you found one part of the puzzle and you feel confident about it now, but you need to still figure out what's missing on the other part. Is it the presentation? Is it, like, your pricing, or where you're showing, or the gallery? Like, it's always like, it's and I think this is something that we often forget. We forget that success is not like, it's not like, if nothing is personal. Like, okay, if it didn't sell out, it isn't that you weren't good enough. First, good enough is you like it or not, and the second good enough is like, did you put it at the right time? Was it there at the right price? Were the like socioeconomic conditions right, or like the people came in? Like, there's so many factors that you have to consider, like without thinking, oh, I'm not good enough. Because for us, it's easier to, oh, I'm not good enough, oh, I'm too good. Both ways. I think artists have a hard time saying that.
You are like you are putting out like it's so it's so personal, the professional and the personal, like especially for me being
Yeah,
like
it's so
I'm
different.
both artists, it's so different to disconnect. So it's not like in the sense that the main thing is about creating the art, and you try to look at these things, but a lot of artists are not good at like that's why they go to
Yeah,
gallery and they'll handle the stuff. And like I'm particularly bad at doing all of this stuff. So like you there are so many other factors apart from art, unfortunately, that because you're putting yourself out there, a piece of yourself, it's so
yeah,
personal. So the
yeah,
disappointment, you it is bound to be such crushing disappointment. And one
yeah.
of the reasons why I did, like I was saying, that I was surprised because I had suppressed this feeling within me, because I do
Feeling.
internalize these things a lot. So I had guarded
Yeah,
myself like completely, that I was like,
yeah.
oh, it's my first solo show. If I don't sell a
Because
single
it's
thing,
also like, we prepare ourselves for worst case scenario. Worst case scenario.
yeah, because you get hurt. Like I do, I'm vulnerable. I will say like I'm.
Oh yeah, I don't think it's you. I think with as artists, because the way that we shape our careers, like, and not only visual artists, I think actors, musicians, business owners, like, when you're on your own, you get used to with so much rejection. Like, it really does. It, in one way, it makes you stronger, but in other way, it also, like, you only expect another rejection, and you feel like, okay, I like, for me, I when I see myself, I'm like, already when I'm thinking I'm working on something, I'm like, okay, I know that I am doing my best, but maybe I'll just get another rejection. Let me work on what I need to do after this. Because in my mind, my journey has always been, and I noticed this lately, like, I get so excited when I'm working on something, and I'm like, I'll put my, like, that is the easiest part for me. Like, it is tough, but I enjoy it. It really, like, lights fire. But once it is done, I'm like, okay, now my part is done. Now what? I'll submit, I'll do what I'm meant to do. But it's not like, it's not going to change my world. I really need to get back to doing something again. So it's like, you internalize, like, okay, yeah, that's another mediocre, or like another rejection, or like, okay, we'll see you later, or like, you know. But when something really happens, and that happened to me, like, I remember when during COVID, I put out like my first, like, a series online, and I'd launched like a series. And I was like, okay, I mean, I was doing my best. I was like, I'll promote, I'll share, and I did. And I didn't expect that people will pick up on it, and I didn't expect people will quickly buy it, and I didn't expect. And when that happened, I was like, my goodness, did did this just happen to me? And it it's like that. Because, and that moment, it was like, okay, now I remember that moment. And then there are so many more moments of nothing like that at all. So it's like, it happens.
Of course, we are very like one is definitely very very vulnerable in these spaces.
Putting up your own solo show is like, having a solo show in itself is like such a overwhelming experience in itself, because there's so much. How was that for you? What was the hardest thing for you?
Actually, like honestly, like I completely shut my mind to a lot of external. Like I had to, because I'm generally like more nervous and an anxious person a lot of times. Like
Okay.
either like extremes, right? Like either I'm super chill, and then I'm like it's like a
Yeah.
pendulum. So I had to really train myself to completely shut my mind, but to anything but this. I had a number in my head, and I was like I have to finish these works, and I just have to concentrate on that. And I was just doggedly at it. Like it was almost like in the whole house, like like everyone was like accommodating me. Like it was everyone. So I had to do that for the solo show. See, when it
Yeah.
came to the concept, I did not. I had full confidence. Like what I'm going to put up, like everything was done. Also, method was so good to work with. They didn't really they didn't really like push, and which is something that I like they didn't really push. They had confidence, and they said that we
Yeah.
have confidence continue and you'll give it to us in time and we'll do it in time. And they were a little chill. Like I'm also a like, हाँ यार कर लेंगे. I'm
हो
like
जाएगा.
that. हो जाएगा and हो ही जाता है.
Yeah.
Like generally with
Yeah.
me, I always do it. I just don't like nagging too much.
And it's also like something sometimes it's like I feel like some, and I keep saying this to even my partner, I'm like, I'll keep doing my hard work. The mehnat is going to be there. But जो किस्मत में है, like whatever is in my own destiny, whatever is in your किस्मत, uh, जो जो लिखा है और जो होना है, like whatever is in your destiny is going to come to you. So no matter like how hard you press or how relaxed you are, even if you keep doing the work that you feel called to, and then put it in the put it in the universe, like
Yeah, you will stress on the first opening day. So like you will stress about like the opening day of any show, group show or anything like that. You're going to be excited. You will have butterflies. So I tend not to think about it till that day because I anyway am not going to be able to control like the like I won't be able to think of anything but that. So this really helped me do that just concentrate on the painting, forget about everything else. Like that was the only way that I could get through it. Like put
but did
walls.
you
That
obsess over details? But why is this not as
nothing.
perfect? Or why
No,
did you have a good
no.
framing? Or did you have like, are you like I'm a person, I feel like, and I have to hold myself back. Like, I feel like I
Framing,
get
yeah.
too perfectionist in the sense. Like, am I do I have my cards right? Do I have my pricing right? Is my bio right? Is this like, I get like, okay, I need to do my best in the sense of like I obsess over things so much that I realize sometimes that I stressed out so much that I lose out that moment. I don't enjoy it. And later on I'm like, now I've realized like imperfection, I don't have the best bio. Okay. Don't have the best, whatever I can make the best is okay. I have to let go of whatever I can't.
Like honestly, like I only like till framing, like because I want the frame how I have decided it, and I will obsess over the painting like with myself. Like I will obsess after that, like no, then no. Then I'll like laga do. Like that. It's okay. Like I like once the painting is done for me, like it's just and the framing is done. Like unless you're doing a real shit job, like where I'm like, and I'll even if you're doing it, I'll maneuver it in a way that I'll say, okay, just don't put it this way. But like too much, I can't. Like because my all my concentration goes on the painting. So like like I can't.
नहीं हो सकता.
No, नहीं हो सकता.
um,
That's why like I'm saying that there's some things you just can't, uh, you
yeah,
know, uh, I mean, that's why I say na PR and all of these things just like देखते हैं like I'll always put it
yeah,
out
we'll
like
figure it out.
later.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out. Very like that, like,
Yeah.
but not when it comes to the work.
But-
That's when I'm just like,
oh my, thank you so much, Gargi. But I am not letting you go. I have a rapid fire for you. I have a rapid fire for you. So are you ready? Okay. One, two, three. Here we go. This or that. Okay. Are you a morning person or a night person? Your mode of preferred mode of creating.
night person.
Oh, you're a night person. How long do you work? Like how late at night?
I can go on. I can go on
Oh.
like 2 3. I mean like
Oh.
not very late. I
Okay.
used to be worse. I've become better. I feel.
I used to be a night person, not anymore. I still feel like I'm very potentially like once in a blue moon. I really feel like if I really need to do something creative, and I'm very efficient at night, but it just really messes up with the entire day and schedule and life in general. So I'm like, I'd rather be an early person now.
Yeah, I try to do that, but I always it's a constant fight. But I definitely am more of a
Yeah.
night person. I'm like pretending to be a morning person, basically.
Okay. Music or silence? What's your preferred way of creating?
Neither, not music or silence,
No?
but not music,
What do you do?
but audiobooks.
Oh, I love that too. I love podcasts. I love podcasts and audiobooks.
Audiobooks, definitely.
What is the best piece of advice you've ever been given by another artist?
Uh, don't ever leave your drawing practice. That's what I
I love
even
that.
mention
You just
every
said.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What has been the most rewarding moment for you as an artist? Do you have a moment that you feel very, like, you always recall and feel very precious about?
When I finished this one particular figure that I was obsessing over in one of my paintings, and once I was done with it, because it took like about like 2 weeks or 3 weeks just to paint the face, because it was miniature and I wanted it. And when it came out, I was like done, finished, done. I've achieved what I wanted in life.
Okay. How do you deal with creative blocks?
um, Show up every day in front of your desk and every day, like, just relentless. Take a break, walk, whatever, but every day, like just be there. That's the only thing that's worked for me.
We all have our own strategy, I would say. And I think it changes. Yeah. And it changes from time to time.
Like a lot of people smoke weed and paint. I can't do that.
Yeah.
I think it's bogus.
How was your experience working with the artisans? I'm sure they would have very different. And you know what? This is, I feel like, I don't know, this is particularly in India, or this is I don't know, any our audience listeners are international. So I'd really be interested in hearing from what people think. The other day when even I'd gone to my framer, and this wasn't a regular framer that I'd go to, and often people have this, like, their stories always start with, oh, I had artist friends and they were smoking and they were painting, and like, this picture always being portrayed with like weeds and smokes, and like how only painters only have this kind of a world. And I was like, why is this always this association like this?
Please, yeah, my hand is not shaking. Like I need full concentration. Imagine that. Like no way.
And
Like
look at your wavy lines. It's like, uh,
no,
but you'd make really great hairs that way.
yeah, no. It will not. It doesn't work. It doesn't.
Okay. How has your relationship with social media been, as an artist?
It's
Has it
definitely
helped you, hindered?
it's helped me. Once I have kind of stopped giving it too much importance.
Yeah. Okay. One piece of advice you'd like to give to other women artists in general, people who are, listening to this podcast. One piece of advice to move forward.
To move forward, ag- very simple again. Like I always say that keep at it till you find don't obsess about finding your visual language, because I'll find a
Yeah.
lot of people that you have a style, or we have a style, and they kind of have like a very pretend style that they look and then they kind of like inherit or like they inhabit.
Yeah.
And I would say that no, don't do that. Like once you start drawing, painting, and you keep consistently doing that, you will find it yourself. But
Yeah.
obsessing over your style, oh, I'm this artist, oh, I'm this, don't put yourself
Yeah.
in these boxes. I would say that's very important.
Yeah.
Because I've done that quite a
Love
lot.
that.
That work.
Yeah. I second that. I would second that. Thank you so much. This was my last question. You get a big hug from me, a lot of love from me, and that is your hamper. But you know what? I've had about 150 plus guests for so far, and you're the first person who's asked me for a love hamper. I'm so surprised. Nobody asked me for a hamper. They never assume, like, they're like, it's a digital. We'd never get one.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I will.
You should always.
Chance पे dance, yeah. It was just chance पे dance.
Yeah.
Ignore that.
Okay.
Something from
Thank you
Agra.
so much, guys. Yeah, no. I'm also in Delhi. I'll send you something from Delhi and Agra mixed both.
Okay.
But
ठीक है,
hopefully,
done.
yes, we'll meet in Delhi.
Yeah, we will. And so nice, and thank you for having me over. And I hope you got something useful to use. Like,
I treasure this podcast, these conversations the most. The best part of what I do, I think this is what um this is what I love the most.
You are definitely really good at it, and keep doing the great work that you guys are doing, and get as many more Indian artists. Like, I'd love to hear from them.
Yes. Yes, send us recommendations, send us guests, and we'll bring them.
Okay, sure.
Thank you so much. One last thing. Anyone who's listening, specifically, I'm very proud. So, where people can find you, if you have anything coming up, where can they support your work? Tell them how they can find you.
In my Instagram, it's at Gargi Chandola. I'm a lot of the day I'm on online on over there. I have a website which I haven't really updated. It's called www.gargichandola.com. And yeah, I will, but mostly I post on Instagram. So, like, for my next show for next year, I will update on that. And I'd love to see as many people who
When
can
is
come.
that happening?
I don't know. Let's say maybe August next year. I don't have too much details on it yet, but hopefully, हो जाएगा.
Yes, 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 yes. Thank you so much, Gargi, and everybody who joined us for this conversation. And I hope you check out Gargi's work and tell me which monkey and banana and woman is your favorite one, and we'll nerd over that. Right?
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Bye. See you.